Let me be clear that we have been clear and we can't be clearer than that. Who was it that began this clearness caper? And we think the accolades will have to go to the shadow treasurer for the Cayman Islands, Angus Taylor, because he is the let me be clear man. And you know when you hear let me be clear, that you're not going to hear a lot of clarity, but it's caught on. There's an epidemic of clearness going on. They're all doing it. Peter's doing it. As we hurtle into the final week of the election campaign, many things remain profoundly unclear. What is clear that the coalition is in trouble, or, as Sarah Hanson-Young, the senator, so elegantly framed it,
it's because their campaign is off the rails, and it's quite clear that Peter Dutton's campaign has tanked. It's in the toilet. In the toilet.
But it's clear that the flip-flopping on policy, whether it's work from home, nuclear, public servant sackings, has been very unclear. Let's cut to the chase, though. Cut through the chaotic doorstops, gotchas, and the other distractions. What is clear? Well, it's clear that the coalition's policies remain uncosted. They're not saying how they're going to pay for all this stuff. Even their defence policy, where they sallied forth this week and announced the big defence spend. This was announced even after voting had begun. People had started voting. Here was Peter announcing his defence policy, finally. Uncosted. Nuclear. Uncosted. How do we pay for all this stuff? Well, this week we published a report by the leading renewable energy analyst or energy market analyst in Australia. We think he probably is, Tim Buckley, on nuclear. He reverse engineered the coalition's Frontier Economics report. Now, he found that the true cost of nuclear, we just did the last video on this, would be 4.3 trillion, not the 331 billion measly amount espoused by the coalition, not the 600 billion estimates touted by Labor, but trillions, 4.3 trillion at the lower end. This makes it fairly clear, Buckley's a serious analyst, that the whole point of politics these days is to deliver the rhetoric of clarity, but not clarity itself. It's clear that Donald Trump, with his bizarre tariff routine and reality TV cast of cabinet people, is a total chump, and that Australia should now espouse, clearly, a new foreign policy. Instead, Peter Dutton's long-awaited defence policy kowtows to the Donald's demands to spend a lot more money financing the warmongering of the US military establishment, which clearly puts Australia at risk. Financing a regime engaged even in genocide. That's clear. There's no argument there. Yet the Dutton foreign defence policies are to spend more money, despite the $20 billion wasted already on military procurement over the past decade during their tenure, tossing it at the US in what is a mammoth mismatch in timing because the equipment doesn't arrive, the submarines, etc. During this looming period of military risk, it arrives after that. The whole thing is unclear. It doesn't make any sense. Meanwhile, our allies, the US, are murdering people in Yemen, just killing civilians there. Campaign in which we are partners, the Red Sea campaign. Australia is at war. We don't hear much about it, do we? Despite the fact that the people we're fighting, the Houthis, have clearly said they will stop using their drones when the genocide stops in Gaza. Are we on the wrong side here? While the genocide perpetrator, the Israeli government minister, meanwhile, this guy, Itamar Ben-Gvir, this monster of a guy, proudly walks around the streets of New York this very week, waving with impunity, a monster who openly advocates to exterminate Palestinians. All of them. Our ally, our friend. This is truly a time of horror. A time on which historians will reflect and ask, how did it all happen? But here we are. It's Anzac Day today, as we film this, and the big story is booing. There was some booing at the Anzac Dawn service, booing at the Welcome to Country declaration by neo-Nazis. Poor form. but yet another distraction, because in Gaza, the Israelis have desecrated the tombs of the Anzacs, the Anzac graves, which were being upkept and preserved by the people of Gaza. That's the story. Our ancestors who fought the fascists, now tarnishing their memory. We're fighting with the fascists. We are on their side, the genocide. And while Labor continues to lend its tepid support for all this via financing, exports up 20% with Israel and Australia over the past year, and diplomatic grovelling, the coalition is openly embracing the grotesque regime of Benjamin Netanyahu, openly, shamelessly rejecting international law, the courts, the ICJ, the ICC, spurning it in favour of a genocidea. And the comically incompetent regime of Donald Trump is driving the world into recession and chaos, threatening to drag us into war with our biggest trading partner, China, demanding we hand over more public money, our money, to this madness. That's the defence policy. That's the foreign policy of the coalition. And the Labor policy is at least understandable but not acceptable. The focus was on Canberra this week, meanwhile, where ACT Senator David Pocock, former Wallaby, was naturally up in arms for his constituents, as Peter Dutton made his public service sackings more clear. It was all about the numbers. The coalition has few votes to lose by saying that we will axe those 41,000 public service jobs from Canberra. All those Canberra fat cats. That's where the fat cats are, they say. And they are right. They're overpaid, these public servants. But 41,000 jobs from Canberra. We won't lose any votes in Canberra. There'll be a lot of sympathy for this around the country, for this attack on the fat cats, but it's not really. They'll all keep their jobs. Just normal, average people. This from the mob, who spent more than $20 billion on consultants in their final year as they gutted the public service, sent the profits of government work to PwC and their mates in the Big Four. And so it is that we head into an election with Australia roughly divided in thirds. Coalition, Labor, and third parties and independents, due to the failure of the political duopoly, an inexorable trend over recent decades. And the Greens and the Teals and other independents are up against it, and they're up against dark money, foreign interference too. Now, we published Wendy Bacon, the eminent veteran investigative journalist, and Yaakov Aharon this week on another astroturfing group. Astroturfing is setting up a fake grassroots campaign to look like it's a campaign for the people, but it's actually funded by fossil fuel interests or Israel interests. This latest one that Wendy and Yaakov uncovered is called Better Australia. They broke the story that Better is targeting the Teals and the Greens. Fear-mongering. We don't know where the money's coming from that finances Better. Very busy in the seat of Wentworth this week, but we do know that Liberal and Labor power brokers have got together, that they're behind it, driving this thing, the duopoly, against the interlopers of the third party and the independents, teaming up to dump on the Teals and the Greens. People who want to, the Teals and the other independents, who want to actually represent their constituents, not corporations, not Donald Trump, not Benjamin Netanyahu. Now, we know that this other astroturfing mob called Advance Australia, putting out their bizarre, hateful advertising, untrue advertising, another astroturfing group. We know that they have links to the fossil fuel and the Israel war lobby. It's an unholy alliance. So we assume that Better probably does too, but we don't know because of disclosure. We can't find it yet. We won't be able to see it because of the once-a-year disclosure of political donations. Happens in late January, so next year, once a year. We need lifetime disclosure. While others use volunteers, these guys are spending a lot on paid urges. Some people that don't even know about politics, they're just there to hand out leaflets. What a scam that is. No truth in advertising. Free range to say anything you like online to campaign for foreign interests. AEC, where are you? Let's not forget, we know that Israel lobby money is engaged in this campaign. It was in the Queensland election too. That's foreign interference, but also, and this is a critical point, in fossil fuel land, foreign money is overwhelmingly behind this stuff because the oil and gas majors, the foreign ones or their subsidiaries in Australia, the Chevrons, Exxons and Shells of the world, are 100% owned by foreign corporations. But even the domestic multinationals, the likes of Origin and Santos, have huge foreign shareholdings, and it's estimated that the two mining majors, BHP and Rio, are more than 80%, 80 to 90% foreign shareholders. That's how big they are. Their registry is full of foreign shareholders. That's fair enough. No problem with that. But their interests are not Australia. But our scam of the week, continuing on this theme, goes to Inpex, the Japanese-owned multinational. They have well and truly scammed all Australians, politicians first. No income tax paid on $21 billion of gas exports since 2015. And none of this gas goes to Australians, except in emergencies where we have to beg for it. And yet they produce and they export more gas than is bought at high prices by Australians and used each year in Victoria, New South Wales and South Australia. They export more than those three states combined. And guess what? Zero royalties paid, or PRRT, that miserably failed petroleum rent tax. On this gas, which belongs to us, therefore royalties should be paid. That is not tax. They're getting it for free, drilling it for free, exporting it. High prices, not earmarking any because of government policy ineptitude for Australians. And yet they get this gas off to Japan. Inpex does, the mighty Inpex. They flick liquid shiploads of this stuff off to other countries like Taiwan, making a profit, exporting it onwards at our expense, our gas. And that is what you call a scam. Now, there isn't a clear answer to funding Australia's future needs, of course. Somebody just has to start taxing them and charging them royalties, as they do in Norway and other places. That's what needs to be done. It's quite clear. And in fact, we need a new defence and foreign policy. There's no doubt about that. The world is changing very quickly. We're still stuck in the last century. How do we fund it, though? Defence costs have to go up to actually give Australia to deliver a defence force which can defend this country. Because it can't at the moment. You tax the foreign multinationals. That's what you do. It's very clear. Let me be clear about that. We have never been clearer. Tax the foreign multinationals for the benefit of Australians.